Have you been experiencing internal financial struggles triggered by economic concerns? Are you feeling capped at your current income level and can't seem to realize your financial potential? Energy healer Jean Border has created an emotional freedom technique, or EFT, tapping protocol to help calm the inner voice that keeps you stressed. Claim your free copy at jeanborder.com/vow and say goodbye to those financial blockages. Welcome to another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, Energy Work to Better Your Business, hosted by energy healer Jean Border. It's not just about dreaming, it's about making those dreams a practical reality. Subscribe to us via your favorite network by visiting our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com. Now, get ready. Your journey to success starts here.
Hi, everyone. It's your host, Jean Border, with another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, where we talk everything business with a slant on energy work, mindset work, and the psychology of our beliefs and thoughts and how that impacts not only our personal life, but also our business world. And I have a special guest with me here today. This is Kristen Needle. Hi, Kristen.
Hello. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. And we're going to have a really cool conversation. But first, I want to remind my listeners out there that if you're having some financial stress in your world, or if you're worried about the economic situation going on in your home or community or country, down below in the show notes, there's a free PDF for you, which is an EFT tapping protocol. If you're into tapping at all, just do a few rounds of tapping along with the instructions that are in the PDF. As you go through the protocols, just do this simple tapping. It will calm down your nervous system so you can make decisions from a place of calm rather than reaction or tension or fear. And I just did a tapping round right there on the video for those of you who are watching this rather than just listening. So you can just tap along with those places I just tapped. Or if you're familiar with it, go for it. But I would like to know how it helped you. Or even if there's another type of video or type of tapping protocol you'd like me to send you, I can do that. I have gobs of them. But jeanborder.com/vow, VOW, for those of you who are just listening and aren't looking at the show notes, or you can click on the link below. Either way. But now, on with the show. Hi, Kristen. I'm so happy you're here.
Hi. So happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about you and what your focus is.
Sure. So I'm on a mission to help women balance entrepreneurship, motherhood, and mindset with actionable, life-changing, simple strategies. So intentional business strategies, intentional life strategies, right? I want women to show up at their best, move them out of overwhelm, help them align with their purpose, kind of really find that balance between like ambition and joy in creating a life that they love.
And one of the words you said was simple.
Simple.
Because we have a tendency to make everything so complex and so hard, and then we don't want to get through the process. So simple is important.
It is, especially when you're in overwhelm. A lot of times that means you're overthinking, right? Everything is kind of just becoming a jumbled mess where we're operating kind of out of fear in some way or scarcity in some way. And so it's how do we bring this back down to feeling easy and doable? And what is the next best step in what I am doing in that moment?
Cool. I know your focus is really helping mothers a lot. So how did you get from where you started to where you are now in your business? And how did you get to focusing on mothers? I know some of the story.
Yes. Yeah, it was a journey. So I would say I did not plan to be an entrepreneur, but I also did not plan to become a single mama. And so basically what happened is I found myself in total overwhelm, which surprise, surprise, I feel like a lot of coaches, you start coaching, right? Because you're helping like this old version of you. But I was trying to find a way to basically provide for myself and my son, but I didn't want to compromise showing up for him or showing up as the best version of myself. So I wanted to find something that lit me up and still gave me the flexibility to make every school drop off and pick up and doctor's appointment and sports game in between. And so I started consulting, and basically I transitioned into being an OBM, that's an online business manager. And I was working as the right hand to 6-7-figure business owners and these brilliant women. And what I realized I was doing was essentially coaching them, right? I was helping them get these visionary ideas out of their head and into strategy, and basically move them out of overwhelm when things became very challenging in life and business, and figure that out together to get forward. And I was like, okay, I don't want to see any more just amazing women just spinning, right? It's just, how do we create days that work for us, that work in alignment with us? And so that led me here and on this journey, and why I want so badly for women to recognize that you get to choose, especially entrepreneurs, right? Like, that's the beauty of it, is we get to choose how we are spending our time, how we are designing our days, how we are showing up in our business and for our clients and for our kids and our partners. So that's the spark that drove all of this.
The word choose is so powerful. And so many times we get so caught up in, I've got to get this done, I've got to get that done, I've got to get this done, I've got to get that done. And we totally forget that we get to choose how we live our life and how we run our business. But if you don't even stop to think about, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
How do you really want to live? And are you living or running your business the way that in a perfect world you might?
Absolutely. And I will say that a lot of the time it feels like we are choosing as women to focus on everyone else other than ourselves, right? So in those moments where we're choosing to focus on the million things that have to be done in our business, or the million things that need to be done for our kids or for our family or our house or personal to-dos, and the list goes on, right? We don't take a minute to sit with that and be like, am I making choices that are in alignment for me? Am I choosing myself in all of this so that I can show up at my best in all of this? So I love everything you just said. It really take a minute, right? And sit with it.
It's like we're doing someone else a disservice if we focus on how we want things to be, because we make someone else more important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, that's exactly it. You're effectively saying, I am not as important, right, as all these other things I'm pouring my energy into, when the reality is you're the most important, right? If you're feeling totally depleted and drained in entrepreneurship in general, because I know that's where we're supporting entrepreneurs, right? It starts with you, right? You got to pour into yourself first, because if you are feeling totally exhausted and totally burned out, how are you going to show up in your business? How are you going to show up for your clients? Or you're not, right? You're like, I'll get my 9th cup of coffee and I'll do my best and hope I don't lead into a just totally burned out version of myself.
And on the burnout front, a lot of times we use busyness as a distraction from what's going on in our personal life, what we don't want to think about, what we don't want to feel, right?
Yeah.
There's this idea, and I'm a proponent of it. I'm conservative, so I'm going to use a smaller number. But there's this idea that I'm going to say 80% of all dis-ease in the body can be attributed to emotional upsets that we've held on to, that we're pushing down and not thinking about. And I'll think about that later. I'll deal with that later. We deal with a little bit of something that happens, and we hold on to the rest, and I'll deal with it later. And so we keep holding on and holding on and holding on to so much. Eventually it shows up as a pain, or as an ache, or a headache, or a stomach ache, or my ankle hurts, so I can't go somewhere, right? A way to keep us home and keep us safe. Sometimes we take on so much that we get physically ill because our body keeps yelling at us and we ignore it until it says, if you won't stop, I will stop you. And that, I think, is true for so many people who reach burnout stage.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's essentially what I've seen and heard to be true as well, right? Like if you don't take a minute to slow down, your body will do it for you. That's, think about how when you're run down and depleted, right? How much easier is it to get a cold? I mean, I'm probably talking to every parent out there when you're up sleepless nights with your kids, right? All of a sudden now you're sick as well. Cause it's just, you're not having that capacity to slow down and rest and recover and replenish. And rest is restorative. Rest is needed. So our body innately knows, right, that we have to take a second and recover from the burnout. And if you're feeling that overwhelm, take that break from your business too, right? Give yourself like that mental health day. You need that same kind of recovery time as if you've been sick. Your body needs it.
And taking a break, especially with,
any digital device, yeah.
It's really hard to unplug. And you say, take a whole day off from your business, but it's right here. Well, that's your choice. You get to choose how often you're going to pick it up and check your email. There are some people who ascribe to the idea that I will get up in the morning, I will take care of me before I ever look at my digital device. Because once I do, I'm allowing it to drive my day rather than my intelligent, emotional, all-knowing self to know what's best for me. I'm giving away my power to a digital device, and I'm checking Instagram and the Facebook and the email. And
2 hours later. Yes.
Yeah. And I didn't get anything done that would actually further business because I was reacting to all these people who, would there be any difference if I waited 6 hours?
You lead me into two things I just thought of as you're speaking. And it's just when I'm working with individuals, it's thinking about how you are managing your day, right? Time management, also your routines, your morning routine and your evening routine, and if they're serving you or not, right? And in the example you just used, if you're waking up first thing in the morning and you're like, oh, I'm just going to check this really quick, and you find yourself locked in, and then you've all of a sudden, now we're running late for school schedules, or, oh, I didn't do X, Y, and Z before this meeting today, or, oh my gosh, I didn't even take that. I told myself I was going to go for a walk this morning because I wanted to feel better about today. I said tomorrow I'd start fresh, right? You're effectively putting all of those practices or needs on hold just to scroll through your phone for a while. And that's not a morning routine that is going to set you up for success that day, right?
And the phones are not even physically healthy for you. I have a lot of clients who come in that one of the things that we get to, if they're having sleep issues in particular, is where is your phone at night? Oh, well, it's right by my bed. Okay. Well, there are studies that show that you are being bombarded with those electrical impulses from that phone. As every time it goes out to search for more information, that's interfering with your sleep pattern. So if nothing else, move it 10 feet away from you. That's not so far that you can't see it. You're comfortable knowing it's in the room with you. You can't reach it out and grab it at 2 a.m., right? To check your very important messages at 2 a.m. But at least it's a little bit farther away from you. Right?
Yes.
But we're so used to being controlled by the media, by our devices, by external items, rather than having the permission to control our own self, to control our own schedule, to control our own actions, to control the way we set up our day or our business. We have to rely on somebody else to say it's okay. And so sometimes it sounds very basic. Sometimes you just have to say, I give you permission to say, no, I can't take on another task right now. That does not make you a terrible human being.
Yes, absolutely. No, in fact, it's the opposite of that, right? That's knowing yourself. That's giving you space to effectively do whatever you needed to do in that moment for you, right? Rather than doing that for something or someone else. That's a conversation I feel like I have often, where if people are planning their days or batching tasks, it's like, oh, you know what? I crushed it. I got through all this stuff in like an hour and a half. And now I have white space on my calendar. So now I'm going to go do these other 10 things. And it's like, whoa. Let's pump the brakes for a second. That white space does not need to be filled, right? Like, if you are feeling like you have the time, like, take a second too and think about, like, energetically, like, where you're holding. Maybe you absolutely crushed it in an hour and a half, but that also might have taken a lot out of you. Like, you have that white space there for a reason. Enjoy it, use it. Give yourself a second to kind of recharge before you go into the next thing. You don't have to just fill it because it's there.
And I'm going to also suggest schedule it.
Yes, absolutely schedule it. It's needed.
Brendan Burchard, he talks about calendars all the time. And he says every time he goes into a business to do a consulting gig, the first thing he does is say, show me your calendar. Because that way he can see who sets priorities where.
Mm-hmm.
Is it on your marketing? Is it on yourself? Is it on your family? Is it on your off time? What you pencil in on your calendar is what you value, big picture wise. Yes, you have to do some things, but if right now your priority is marketing, that's what you're going to have blocked in on your calendar. And if you don't block in decompression time, where's your brain going to be by the time you're into hour 6 of your day? If it's all go, 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 go. And trust me, I've been there, done that. And sometimes there are things that you can't change and can't put off, but there are also plenty of times when you can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to take that a step further, considering how much time it's actually going to take you to do those tasks. Because how many times I've done it myself where I'm like, oh, throw this on my calendar for 30 minutes. And then, actually that one project had 100 moving pieces. And now we're going into the next day of what still needs to be done for that, right? It's really considering what it's going to take to accomplish something. And that can be personal or business, right? But sometimes we sell ourselves a little short and we don't consider how much capacity it's really going to take.
Yeah. How do you work a calendar? When you're talking with a client, how do you approach that with them?
Yeah. So similar to kind of what you were saying before, is it helps me understand where their priorities are, right? Or what isn't working for them in some capacities. A lot of times I will see a very busy calendar because that white space is not scheduled in, or we are not considering how much time might go into a couple of things that are scheduled weekly. And then we really need to reconsider it, right? Like it's truly a calendar audit. Like, how does this feel for you, right? Does working X amount of hours every single day, and then again, once the kids are asleep, does that feel good or not? And let's talk about why, right? And then let's understand too, of all the things that you are prioritizing, which of these is really a priority? Because if you're telling me that 30 different things are a priority right now, sometimes that's really just an overwhelm mentality, right? It's a feeling like everything is a priority right now. When the reality is, if we took a second, we could recognize that we could plan your day so much better, where maybe 2 of those things need to be done that day. The rest can get spread out throughout the month or the next 2 weeks. And it's just having that mindset shift, right? Of like, I will get this done, but it doesn't have to be right now. So
I'm big on lists. Some people are not, but for me, it's easier just to, when something pops into my head, I put it on a list, and then I don't have to keep headspace for it, And I have different lists for different topics because that's how I organize. I'm analytical in a lot of ways, and I'm creative in a lot of other ways. But for me, lists are a way of getting things out of my head. Now, some lists I'll keep for 12 months, 18 months, and I will only check 2 things off of it, right? But then I can reevaluate them periodically and say, is it a priority right now? And if it's still on that list, obviously it wasn't. But it is something I would like to have or like to do in the future.
Yeah, in the long term. Absolutely.
So I think, at least for me, understanding immediate versus short term versus medium range versus long term, which is versus nice to have, right? And which of those are external expectations or internal really wants and desires and drives and needs?
Exactly. I mean, you're going to have your business moving tasks, right? You know, there are certain things you're going to have to do every day to show up in your business. Some you may enjoy, some you might not. Things you're going to have to do every day to show up for your clients or whatever it is you're doing, right? But exactly to your point, some of those wish list things, especially if you're a true visionary, you're not short on ideas or goals or dreams. Yeah, absolutely.
That's me.
Oh,
I'm creating
yes.
different podcasts even while we talk. So
Yeah, exactly. So I love what you're doing where you're writing it down because it's that brain dump, right? For lack of a better word, where you're just, you're getting it out of your head and you're getting it down somewhere else. So it's not taking up space anymore. And then depending on your preferred system, you love writing lists. You know, some women might take that and put that into a project management software and then assign deadlines accordingly, or, know that if it's something that I'm going to look at 12 months down the road, it's living somewhere, but I can't lose my Post-it, or however it works for you is a beautiful thing. But yes, it's understanding that what truly aligns for you in that moment. Is it internal? Is it external? What is needed? What is hopeful? What is wanted? What is a wish? And how do you make it all happen in a way that makes sense, right? Isn't the world is not on fire to get the 100 things on that list done. Yeah.
But I think sometimes people struggle with that concept. Just because it's in your head doesn't mean you have to use your words, get overwhelmed by it, right? It's a choice. How are you going to respond? Is it really something critical to your life today?
Right.
Or to your business today? Like if it's April 14th and taxes are due April 15th and you haven't started, it's probably pretty important you either get those things done or send in an extension form. Right. You have 1 minute. It's critical. Deciding what to do with the swing set in the backyard, it's probably getting rusty and you're probably going to need to get rid of it, but it's not critical today.
Exactly. It reminds me of like anytime you talk to a new mom, kind of, right, where the baby's napping, what do you do with that window of time? And
sleep.
Yeah. Right? But how many women are like, okay, and now the house looks like a bomb hit it, so I have to clean all these things and I should really meal prep. And it's just like, you have to work through these things on your own time, right? It's like that old phrase of like, until you're uncomfortable enough, it's like you don't make the change. But understanding that some of those things truly can wait because your health is more important, right? Your rest is more important, because otherwise, what do we have if we don't have our health? We're not rested and able to show up to be able to accomplish those other things. But yeah.
But who's going to take care of the baby if you get sick because you're too run down?
Exactly.
But we're so used to being everything to everyone sometimes that it's hard to say, I'm not perfect. I'm not super person. I might need a little bit of help. That's very hard to say.
Very hard. And some of it, I think, is self-imposed. And I think some of it is a little bit like culturally imposed, right? Where we feel like, yes, women are capable of so much and we can do so many things, but it shouldn't be to our own detriment.
Yep.
Right? And so you don't have to limit yourself per se, but it's also it's setting boundaries with yourself. It's knowing yourself enough, right? To recognize when you need the rest, when you can push a little bit more, when you can delegate or ask for help, and that it is totally okay and safe to do that. And it doesn't mean that you wouldn't be capable of doing that thing, because we all know you can, but it means that you don't have to then burn yourself into the ground doing the thing, because someone else is going to be there to support you.
You said one of my favorite words, which is another conversation I have frequently with, especially with new clients or younger healers and more inexperienced healers that are just starting up their business. And that's boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, just because you can do a thing and can work with everybody and can work 24 hours a day doesn't mean you should.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is going to create their own world as to what's optimal. Do you work better in the mornings? Do you work better over lunch period? Do you work better in the evenings? What office hours do you want to create for your business? Not what everybody else wants you to work. Don't work in the times when you feel lousy or when you feel more social and you want to be out with your friends. Pay attention to how you work best.
Mm-hmm.
Set up your own rules and stick to them.
Exactly. I had a client that really, it was hard for her to wrap her head around the fact that she got to make these decisions, right? Because I think there's some part of her that felt like maybe she wasn't going to be serving or helping the people she wanted to help by effectively asking them to like shift a time when she was going to help them. And you're going to do your best work, right? If you're showing up at a time that works for you, and it's not to hinder what you're capable of in any way. It's actually the opposite of that. And that, yes, you get to, again, choose, right? You can create boundaries around your schedule, around your day, so that it is working for you, and getting her mind to kind of catch up and kind of rewire and get used to the idea of, okay, my schedule can work for me and my clients, and that doesn't make me, a bad coach, or like I'm asking too much of somebody because I think I can do this, even though these hours are super inconvenient for my family, right? This is going to benefit you and your family and them.
And something I suggest, especially when people are really uncomfortable with the idea, is get an electronic calendar and have your clients book from there.
Totally.
You've already set the hours that are open.
Exactly.
And anybody that wants to set an appointment can look at their schedule and compare it to your schedule and pick an optimal time. I don't get into that conversation with my clients about, oh, well, what does your calendar look like here? That's such a waste of your time. And if you're time pressed anyway, don't fall into that trap. You do your calendar, you put it out there for the month or for the year, in my case, for the year. And then the clients, you give them the link to your calendar. They can book it. If they need to reschedule, they can reschedule. I have my calendar set so that they can't make any changes within 24 hours, because I'm not going to have a new client book me an hour from now when I'm not even home.
Right.
I don't play the game. Everybody has the same rules going all the way through. Now, that's not to say with established clients or in emergency situations, I can choose to create new rules.
Yeah.
But it's not the norm. And it's not just because, but I really want to talk. Well, yeah, you can really talk to me the next day.
Mm-hmm. Right. Or what if, they really need to get a hold of me somehow? Well, there's other ways around that, right? But if you've created your schedule in a way that works for you, and now you're sending the link and they can just pick the time and day that works for them, it's a win-win for everybody. And if there truly is an emergency, right, then you guys, I'm assuming, have set up established boundaries with the best way to communicate with each other, whether that, email or Vox or whatever that looks like for your business, where it's like, okay, we need an emergency session, or I need to jump in because this isn't working as it should. We've got a tech issue here, whatever that needs to be. But again, also a beautiful way to create boundaries, right? With your time, but also with communication. I see clients that don't have those boundaries in place with team or their clients, right? And then all of a sudden they're context switching in their days because they're trying to support their team or answer client emails or doing a million things instead of what they said they were going to be doing in that moment. And all that does is kind of create, right, some confusion, some chaos, maybe some mistakes, maybe start to build some resentment because now you're not getting your stuff done because you're jumping in to help everybody else again. So boundaries really are a beautiful thing, and they help create balance in your days, and they are meant to serve you. And once you start realizing that you can create them in a way that's authentic to you and is not harsh or scary, it's a beautiful thing.
And you don't want to be working in reaction mode.
Absolutely.
You're out of control and you're not making your best decisions, most likely. And your head is spinning with, well, if they'd only done this, and if they'd have paid attention, and if they'd have done it, if they'd have scheduled it, all this stuff is distracting you from the work. And they're messing up your joy with your business or with your family or whatever, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So what are some of the things you work with clients on? We mentioned calendar. What else?
Yeah. So essentially, because it's moms mostly, right, juggling home and business, it's going back to kind of basics, what we talked about in the beginning. Usually they're established, things are flowing, but they're still feeling pulled in too many directions. And so a lot of times it is, where do we need to create or hold stronger boundaries? Maybe sometimes when you put boundaries in place, they used to serve you, but they're not working for you anymore at where you are now in business, right? Those things can change and ebb and flow, just like what you do or what you offer or how you show up. And so then it's really working through boundaries. It's working through any kind of like self-limiting beliefs, like I just talked about with that one client who had a hard time being like, wait, I can't move my schedule around without impeding somebody or hurting feelings. And it's like, how are we maybe sometimes getting in our own way in our business or in motherhood, right? Someone else I was working with absolutely wanted to be there and show up for her kids 24/7. And I get that. I started my business to be able to show up for my son, and there is no one else that is going to show up for my son. So I understand the need and the drive and the want to be there. However, it was trying to find this middle ground of, it was an older child, so they're already in school age, and it was her needing to be there for X, Y, and Z things. And it was setting the boundaries so that she could show up for her kids without compromising things she said she needed to do in her business too. So it was like, how do we find this space that works for you, right? Because there still has to be time for you to get things done. And then, yeah, you can be there and be present with your kids, but it doesn't mean that you have to drop everything per se, especially because more than likely, if it's activities, you're going to get a schedule, right? If it's school stuff, sure, sometimes things come up and happen. But then how are we kind of contingency planning, right? If this thing didn't happen because this got in the way, well, there should be a plan B so that you don't feel totally thrown off your game. So it's finding the ways to build in that flexibility a little bit too, knowing that things are not going to be perfect. Your days aren't always going to flow, especially as a parent, but there is still a way to do both,
Yeah. And the whole reactionary lifestyle is one that, in my world, I would be so frustrated. I'm, like I said, I'm very analytical in a lot of ways, but I'm very creative in other ways. And something I wanted to mention when you were talking about the calendar, and you mentioned you thought this, if you'd scheduled something for half an hour and realized it was going to take you into the next day because of 100 moving pieces. Mm-hmm. Creation is like that, right? You think you're going to do this, and then it turns out to be this big deal, and you've got all these things and all these parts and all these pieces, and you'd put 45 minutes on your calendar, but your brain wants to stay there because that's where you get juiced, right?
Yeah. Right. So, yeah.
I'm just like me. That's what the creative process is what brings me joy.
Yeah.
Now, is that strictly a moneymaker? No. Sometimes it has nothing to do with business, right? It might be figuring out how to, what color to paint your living room, right? It'll make you and your kids and your spouse happy, or maybe just you, you know? You get to decide. And so, yeah, your spouse might want some input, but there are things in the home that can be just your choice. But you have to give yourself permission to have at least equal standing in the family structure, right? And that I see that frequently where, again, females have this, I think, more often than guys, just because we're thought of being more nurturing. We want everyone else to feel good.
Yeah, make sure everyone else is happy.
Yeah, whereas people with higher testosterone levels are like, what do I need to get done? So it's more, let's crank it out, production oriented. I want to see the results right now, versus let's make everybody feel good. I mean, it's a totally different energy, right? You have to need both of those in order to function. It's just a question of which is going to have priority in any given task. And I think sometimes it's to our benefit to schedule very analytical or production-driven items when we're very focused, whatever time of day that is for us.
Absolutely.
And other times of the day, we're more free flow, and that's when different ideas can come in. And if you understand when that is for you, or start paying attention to that, to see when that is for you, and schedule those types of items during that part of the 24-hour day, right? Whatever your work day is, whether it's morning, evening, afternoon, 2 a.m., whatever it is for you.
Exactly.
So what applies to me won't apply to you. So we have to be introspective enough to figure that stuff out.
Exactly. Which goes right back to calendar. Yeah. So it's when you're at your best, right? When you are able to kind of drive through the tasks, when you can step up and maybe lead, right? Because that's what you're doing, right? You're being in that masculine energy. You have to get stuff done, whether that's leading your family, your kids, or that's leading your business, right? Like, when can you step into that role and get done what you need to get done? And then to your point, that creative energy, sometimes I feel like, I don't know about you, but it's in my downtime. And that's part of why I need that downtime. It's like when I don't have to be just thinking and doing, right? It's like, if we can build a day or two in your calendar where that's just creative time and you just get to free flow and let that come to you naturally without the added stress, like, that's a beautiful thing. It's like getting to know yourself on this level. So your days are really working for you, because then you get to show up and you just go, right? It's like, okay, I know that I am so productive between like 9 and 12. Like, those are my hours. Like, what is in my calendar where I can just show up and I'm just flowing with my days because I know I can get through this stuff, versus being like, oh, I have to do this at 2. And at that point I'm already shot. Like, my brain capacity is not going to be there. I'm not going to be in on this, It's really understanding yourself and why things may or may not be working for you.
And you touched on something, some really successful, I hang out with a lot of different people, but some really successful online people say they work 3 days a week. But behind the scenes, they're working 5. But up front, when they're meeting with clients or they're holding Zoom calls or they're doing trainings, 3 days a week, that's it. They will not schedule on any other day and anything except 3 days a week. Now, the other day or 2 that they do work, it's all creation.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they have that time where I will work on a new program I'm creating, or a new network that I want to expand, or that I want to shore up, or a new something that would benefit the group that I already know.
Workshop. Yeah. Anything. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, schedule.
Yes.
Because it's priority. If you're not on your schedule, you're not making yourself a priority.
Yeah. And that's a different energetic capacity, right? Those 3 days where you're showing up on back-to-back calls or meetings or whatever that is a very different mindset than the day where you're going to sit back and go, okay, how can I make this thing better? Or what can I do to bring this into the world? Or, what pieces, or who do I have to talk to, or who should I connect with to make this happen? It's a different energy. Yeah. I love that.
Talk to me about non-negotiables.
Ooh, I love this one. So to me, non-negotiables are everything, right? They impact how you show up so fully, because the non-negotiables to me could be personal or business, but primarily to me, they're personal. It's what you're doing for yourself so that you are feeling like your best self every day. So when, for me, for example, like I know I need to get up. I know I put electrolytes in my water. It just makes me feel better. Intercellular hydration, right? I make sure I'm walking my dog, walks and getting out when I can, and it's not snowy or rainy or miserable, right? Like sunlight makes a difference for me and how I'm feeling. Movement, non-negotiable. Exercise is as much my mental health as it is my physical health. And it's how I keep up with my 2 boys, because I have not only my son, but I have a dog that is energetic and 80 pounds. I gotta be able to make sure he can't pull me down the street.
What kind of dog do you have?
He's a lab. He's supposed to be a Bernese Mountain Dog, lab mix, sorry, but he kind of looks like a German Shepherd lab. So
Cool.
rescue. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good boy.
I'm a dog person, so.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
Well, I have a rescue right now. Before her, and she was my dad's, but before her, I had Samoyeds.
They're beautiful. Yeah.
3 big white ones. When you said you had a big dog, try walking with 3 sled dogs.
No, I can't imagine what pound dude is.
I tell people, if you want to learn how to live with a dog, you get a big one, and that you have to train. And now be fine with any dog you get, because you will have mastered the art of communicating with an animal, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The big dogs are the ones where you get trained, or they rule your world.
Or
Try anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But so yes, that where was I going? So yeah, non-negotiables for me are entirely important, because I know that if I don't do those things, right, and my list goes on, I don't feel good, right? I can start to feel like frustrated or a little depleted or a little overwhelmed or not like myself, because it's like, okay, well, I've sat in my office for 7 days and I haven't seen the light of day other than to go pick up my son from school. Like, that's impactful to me because I haven't moved my body, right? So it's really leaning into what you are doing for you to show up as your best self. And that's so different for everybody, but it impacts so greatly who you are and what energy you're bringing into this world, right? If you're putting yourself last in everything and you don't have things that make you feel like you, then I strongly encourage everybody to just take a minute today and start to think about what those things are, and whether that's like, my trip to Starbucks or my long shower routine or whatever it is. Maybe you're a CrossFit person, or maybe art is your thing and you just need that time to paint and create or knit or crochet or whatever that is for you. It's find those non-negotiables, because it so makes a difference. Like, do you find that for you, Jean? Do you have non-negotiables?
Yeah, I've always been a big reader. So I read every day. And now with Kindle, I've always had like libraries of, just books.
Yeah.
Literally, I've had rooms that were just what I called libraries, because I read so fast. But on Kindle, they track how often you read, so when you go for 3 years and you've not missed a day of reading, that, except for the days that you were like on ships with no Wi-Fi, so they couldn't track it, but you know you read anyway. That's saying something. And also for me, music and travel.
Yeah.
So those are my 3 big ones. Family, but that's just a given. And dogs. I've always had dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved to Italy and
love
took
that.
3 big dogs with me. 3 big dogs with big fur coats. And in the summer, it's like 105 degrees. So you've got 3 big dogs with big fur coats. And it's like, oh.
Need one of those cooling pads. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I kept the air conditioner on. They didn't have like central air in the homes. They had like the wall units, very interesting wall units. So, but well, I had air conditioning on in Italy, which is, another experience. But anyway, yeah.
But would you say if you didn't have the opportunity to read, or if you
Oh,
didn't have your animals,
no.
or if you didn't get a chance to travel, like how does that change you?
It makes me, I'm going to use a word that I don't use very often, and that's anxious.
Yeah, sure.
The tension inside starts to become like a boiling pot on the stove,
Yep.
So I have to travel. I built that into this, when you're planning out your future, right? When you plan out your goals, one of my retirement goals was I would have a trip. I want 4 big trips a year. Even if it's just a long weekend trip, so 1 a quarter. And I've kind of rolled those into some like 2-week trips. So I've been to Australia and Antarctica, all these fun places.
That's amazing.
So, but I grew up traveling, and the new experiences feeds me.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I find a way to make it happen.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Oh, I guess that's a good point for our listeners is, what are you always finding a way to make happen?
Yes.
That's your priority.
Yes. Something like you said, you notice a difference in yourself if you're without it. Always making it happen, and you don't feel like you without it. Yeah. All right, really quick, best place you've ever been, because now I need to know.
Different places for different reasons. For majesty, I'm going to say Alaska.
Yeah.
Antarctica was fantastic, but it's so far away and it's not as inhabitable as Alaska. But Alaska, everywhere you look, there's something majestic. And it's not man-made. It's just there.
Naturally
It's
stunning.
something you can't create. You can simulate it, but that's not the same thing. You can be just driving down the road and look up, and there's a bighorn sheep right there on the side of the road. You look at the river over there, and there's some beluga whales just, jumping down the river, floating down the river, whatever. Probably feeding, but they're probably eating something as they go. But yeah, Austria and Alaska so far have been my 2 favorite places to visit.
I have not been to either one, but I would love to go to both. And I've heard beautiful things about both places. So that's
I'm much into the nature world. Water is my thing. I feel calmest on the water or looking at water. I have a big pond out at the back end of my property that I can just look out at any all day long if I want to.
Yeah.
So
I can understand that. I feel the same way. It is very calming to be around water.
So unfortunately, we're running up near the end of our time together. But before we go, I want to make sure people know how to get in touch with you if they want to learn more about you and get in touch with you, whatever. So how can people find you?
Yeah, so the best place to find me is on Facebook or Instagram. Facebook is just Kristen Needle. Instagram, you can find me on Balanced in Business, and that's balanced.in.business. Working through the website, but I will share that with you, Jean, as soon as it's beautiful and up and running.
Cool. And if you didn't remember all that, you can just click the links in the show notes. It'll take you right to her.
That's way easier.
Yeah, typically. So do you happen to have any final thoughts for our listeners?
Oh, I think we covered so much, but it was such a pleasure talking to you. And I hope if nothing else, people take away that you get to choose, right? Like that is what this is about. You're an entrepreneur. You are choosing this path, and it's not an easy path, but you are going to be resilient and you're going to learn so much, and you get to show up and reset and refocus and choose what gifts you're sharing with the world and choose how you're showing up in the world. And it's I'm so excited to, cheer you on and just support you. And it's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Cool. So thank you for being here. It was a nice conversation. I enjoyed it.
Me too.
I know we got off track a few times with the dogs because, again, that's one of my focus points, So
Well, how could you not? Yeah.
exactly. And I've done work with funny. I know, total off topic again, but here we go. Because I do energy work, I've worked with like animal rescues.
Oh,
Rescue, horse rescue.
yeah.
Are such an emotional creatures.
Yeah.
I even worked with a polar bear once. So there you go.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, lots of fun. Yeah. But anyway, there you go.
Well, I love that. I might just be asking you more about that after the show.
Yeah.
Speaking of dogs, if you heard any snoring, that's been mine next to me the whole show.
Aw, how sweet.
Hopefully that's not coming through the audio.
No, I didn't hear it at all.
Okay.
That's
Good.
one thing about Zoom. Zoom has really great noise canceling. And so do a lot of the mics. I know I have a noise canceling mic. So that's going to be it for the day. And then we can talk dogs and animals later.
Sounds good.
I want to thank you for showing up. I really enjoyed our time together.
Here. All right. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you. And for the listeners out there, thank you for showing up today. I know you have a choice of where you spend your time, and I'm very grateful that you choose to spend your time with me. We drop a new episode every Tuesday as a reminder. If you have any topics or any guests you'd like to offer up, please get in touch. I'm open to hearing about all kinds of cool stuff. But until next time, I want to thank you for being around. This is your host, Jean Border, with the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey.
We trust you enjoyed this episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast. Energy work to better your business. Hosted by energy healer Jean Border. Remember to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey.